If you're wondering whether you're going to have to count calories or count macros, this video is going to be really helpful for you, and it's going to save you a lot of time and frustration in the process. Hey, it's Aaron Kushler and welcome back to the channel. Today what we're going to be talking about is whether counting calories and counting macros is needed to lose weight and where it actually could be useful for. I'm going to be sharing my experience with using this method and the lessons and mistakes that I've made in the hopes that you can learn from my mistakes and choose the best approach that works for you. So to give you some backstory, I used to swear by this method. I used to think that counting macros was superior to everything else because it was a more accurate method of tracking what I was eating. Therefore, I thought that it was a superior method to everything else. But what actually happened was a strange thing. When I actually stopped counting calories, that's when I actually lost more weight. I started focusing around my habits and what I was doing instead of actually worrying about the numbers and getting hung up on, a certain macro I was eating, and rather just focused on simple things that I had 100% control over in that moment. And all in all, I lost more weight and with a lot less headaches. However, that being said, it is a very useful method if you have goals of getting down to a really low percentage of body fat, if that is something that you get paid to do, if you're on camera, or you have goals of performance. If you're trying to get the absolute best out of your body, then it's useful. But this video is for people who just want to lose weight and get into awesome shape. So we're not going to be talking about those types of scenarios. So do I think that counting calories and counting macros is needed to lose weight? No, not at all. Many people jump to this method to lose a bit of weight because it's seen as flexible, and the whole term of flexible dieting gets thrown around. You want to eat the foods that you enjoy, you want to still have ice cream, you still want to have chips, you want to have chocolate, and as long as you eat within these specific ranges, you can pretty much eat whatever you like. So some of the things that I experienced using this method, and a lot of the people that I speak with who have tried this method or are trying this method experience is, number one, it really teaches you to follow rules. It puts you in a state where you're putting all the responsibility on this external thing to do the work for you. As long as you stay within these rules, these parameters, you're generally good. And what it does in the process is it takes away from you actually listening to the cues that your body is giving you, which are very important when it comes to a sustainable method to not only lose the weight, but to then keep it off for a long period of time. Secondly, it's not a sustainable method. I'm actually yet to meet someone who wants to track, weigh, measure, and then put all of their data into an app every single day for the rest of their life in order to stay a certain weight. And thirdly, it just adds a whole bunch of stress that's really not necessary. When I was using it, I was sitting stressing about I need to hit protein for a certain amount. I'm like 20 grams underneath. And you start stressing about tiny little things that in the grand scheme of things don't really matter. If you're trying to lose weight, you don't want to be adding extra amounts of stress to yourself anyway. So I know these firsthand because these are some of the mistakes that I learned using this method. When you're using, counting calories, counting macros, whatever you want to call it, and it's not working for you, it's really easy to become really frustrated and not know what to do and not know what's going on. It's usually at this point that a lot of people either throw in the towel completely and they go to hell with it, I'm just going to sit there and eat whatever I used to eat, or they try and add more drastic measures on top of what they're already doing, thinking that that is going to solve the problem for them. So quite often what I see a lot of people do, and I made this mistake when I first did it, was trying to combine several methods together, thinking that you're going to somehow find the key which is going to help you. So a lot of people might go, I'm already counting macros, I'm going to now do that when trying to eat keto, or I'm going to do that and do intermittent fasting at the same time, thinking that the extra restriction is going to help. But all it's really doing is just making it more of a headache, it's making it harder in the long run, and it's just making it more unsustainable. The other big one seems to be carbs. Most people become scared of carbs. They try and reduce the carbs to very little levels, maybe zero, believing that carbs are the big reason why they can't seem to lose weight. They might have heard from someone or somewhere or read something on the internet that said, if you cut out your carbs, you're going to lose weight really fast. But it's simply just not true at all. So what can you do instead? Can you still lose weight without counting calories or counting macros? Absolutely. Unless you like having pre-prepared meals with you everywhere that you go, or taking a set of scales around with you and punching it into an app 24/7, then this method's not really going to work for you. So we actually teach a lot of the clients that we work with how to lose weight in a way that they don't have to be worrying about counting calories. They're not worrying about whether carbs are good or bad, or whether they have to do keto, none of that stuff that confuses you. And to be honest, all we're really doing is focusing on the 20% of things that give you 80% of the results. If you actually take the time to learn and implement and practice these 20% of things, all the other stuff that you used to try and figure out and get your head around that used to confuse the hell out of you, that all becomes irrelevant. So two of the big ones that we really focus on with ourselves and teaching our clients, number one is only eating when you're physically hungry. It sounds simple, but it's actually quite difficult in the beginning to distinguish between whether we're physically hungry or whether we're just emotionally wanting something to eat. We often eat because of our emotions. You know, we might be bored, we might be tired, we're feeling a bit down, and we're looking for some food to make us actually feel better, and we're not physically hungry at the time. Other scenarios, we might be out with friends and, you know, we might be going somewhere where there's food around. We're not actually physically hungry, but we do eat anyway because that's what you're supposed to do. When you're out with friends, you know, they're hungry, they're having something to eat, there's food around, all of a sudden you start to feel like you want something to eat. When you can eat when you're physically hungry and not due to an emotion, you suddenly have a lot more control over your diet, your nutrition, and your weight in general. It suddenly becomes a lot easier for you to then lose weight and to then keep it off for many years to come. You're not battling with lose a bit of weight, gain it back, lose a bit of weight, gain it back, plus more. We're able to just keep it off. The second thing is eating slower. This is the first step to eating only when hungry. You know, if we're eating slower, we're more aware of what's going on. We tend to eat really quickly and we eat when we're distracted. We're not thinking about what we're actually doing. And in that moment, it's very easy to overeat in that meal, and therefore we're taking in more food than we actually physically need. When we do this and when we eat too quickly, that's when we start getting things like stomach aches, feeling bloated, we might get excess gas, we just feel generally unwell, we get really sleepy after lunch, simply because we've eaten too quickly, and therefore as a result, we've eaten too much. Slowing things down gives your body a chance to signal to your brain, hey, I've got enough food in my stomach, I don't need to eat anymore. And it tells your brain, hey, all right, stop with the eating, and we can stop at a point where we feel content. We're not feeling really stuffed or full and then paying for it later on. If you're trying to lose weight, you no doubt want to be able to keep it off once you've already lost it. So it therefore makes sense that you want to try and invest the time into finding a method that you can maintain and sustain for years to come. Your eating behaviors, the way in which you eat the food, is something that you can take with you anywhere you go. It doesn't matter if you're out with friends, doesn't matter if you're at a restaurant, you know, eating by yourself. It's something that you have control over 100% of the time. And it's also something that takes learning, it takes practice, but you'll become accustomed to it the more that you do it. And then once you understand it, you'll become a master of it, and you'll know instinctively when you've had enough to eat, when you're actually physically hungry, and therefore you have all of this control back, and you're not being confused about the latest article that says, you know, carbs are bad, or keto is the way to go, or intermittent fasting is the best diet. That stuff's not going to matter to you. So is counting calories or macros needed to lose weight? No. There's much simpler methods if you are trying to lose a bit of weight that just require you to put a bit of time in learning these and practicing it. And it's like any skill. It just takes a little bit of time for us to learn it, and then once we've learned it, we can implement it for life. In future videos, I'm going to be sharing with you some of these simple methods. We spoke about two of them today, but I'm going to be sharing more about how you can actually implement them for yourself so that you can actually start to reap some of the benefits like I have and some of the clients that we've worked with have as well. So there we have it, guys. That is my take on whether counting calories or counting macros is needed to lose weight. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, whether you've tried it, what your experiences were, and if you found today's video helpful. If you did find it helpful, do me a favor, like the video as well as subscribe to the channel so that you stay up to date with more content like this that I'm going to be bringing out to you. Thanks heaps for watching, and I'll see you next time.